Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call. Mrs. Burns, please.
Mr. Congdon?
Here.
Ms. Boyle?
Here.
Mr. Burnett is absent. Mr. Feather?
Here.
Mrs. Hallenbeck?
Present.
Mr. Morris?
Present.
Mr. Parentano?
Here.
Mr. Rudy?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan is absent. A quorum is present.
Thank you, Mrs. Burns. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Prior to the meeting, we had an executive session and we discussed personnel issues. Any announcements, Mrs. Burns?
No announcements.
Okay, we're going to move to 1.07 Superintendent's Report. Mr. Jones, please.
Okay, I have a lot for the summer update here. First off, the really good news for the district. We were awarded a preschool expansion grant. So in addition to the continuation grant that we received to continue our 34 seats, we now have a new 19 seats approved. That's another $161,000 on top of $289,000. It's all state money. It provides for full-day preschool programming for students who qualify for an income threshold. Basically, our free and reduced lunch student population even extends a little bit beyond that. We're working with, it's flow-through monies that are going to the Bucks County IU, and the Bucks County IU is in our Lower South building already running early learning center work with Head Start. And so in addition to these seats, we have Neshaminy resident students in the Head Start program right here locally. They're going to also run our new seats out of the Schweitzer School, so both sides of our Neshaminy community now will have preschool access available. And in addition to Neshaminy winning some new seats, the United Way of Bucks County also, who runs programs already in the central and northern part of the county, they too were awarded some new seats, and they're going to run programs on either side of our town, one in town, Feasterville, and one over at the Lower Bucks YMCA. And so we'll have other residents who will be able to, because we're oversubscribed, to get children out to those sites as well. So I'll have an update later in the school year in terms of exactly how many preschool students here in Neshaminy are now being served because of these efforts, but it's a really important step in terms of our expansion of that program. We had a lot of teachers attend an AVID training in Philadelphia. 22 Neshaminy educators were there. AVID is a program acronym that stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. The program helps students zero in on the types of skills necessary, the types of strategies necessary for them to be successful here in rigorous coursework so that they're positioned to make a choice when they're graduating as to whether or not they're going to attend college. And so it's a college readiness program, and we're excited about the start of the program in our high school with a couple of 9th grade classes, and eventually we're looking to pilot this at the middle and the elementary level as well. And those teachers were out at the training. They'll be planning this year and looking to implement next year. We had a Neshaminy High School alumna, Claire Smith, Class of 71 honored recently at Cooperstown. Major League Hall of Fame induction. She was a writer, sports writer, and she was the first female to win the award there at Cooperstown. A lot of excitement, and it was really nice to see some of the advertisement or the publicity we were able to provide based off of some of the work Mr. Stanley does for us, so that was nice to see. Summer programs, we had a summer pass program, and the summer pass program helps our middle school students just continue to gain the kinds of necessary skills for them to be successful through those middle school years. A very positive program for students who participate in that. Summer stock this summer, again, a very, very successful effort with regards to their Anything Goes production for the upper age group, and the wonderful Peter Pan Jr. production for the younger groups. And again, our Facebook page had a lot of nice clips there for the summer programs, the summer stock. Good to be able to give them a little extra publicity. They do phenomenal work. A more recent summer program highlighted on our Facebook page was the English language development. We have a lot of students who are supported during the school year with their acquisition of English as a new language. And so this year, using some federal dollars, we were able to provide funding for a summer program that was intensive for them. If you have opportunity, it's about a 2-3 minute clip on our Facebook page, and it just shows a lot of excitement during these summer months of the students who are able to just continue to practice with the language and feel more confident. And a great program and good people running that program for us. In my report, I do have a couple of items referencing the United Way and the Oxford Valley Chapel in Levittown, both sponsoring backpack giveaways for students. So that information is in my superintendent's report. Opportunities if you want to participate in helping, and if you know somebody in need who would benefit from that. A couple of nights for heads up with our elementary standards-based report card is having some modifications this year, and so we're letting parents know about that. There's a summer night, there's a September night, and there'll be more about that at back to school as well from the principals. And the program's also going to be videotaped, so for parents who can't get out to those programs, they'll be able to watch that as well. And we are also starting an effort here to re-register students as they change grades, change schools. So when you're going from 4th grade into 5th grade, we're asking parents to just reconfirm, because sometimes it's been many years since they came to us originally with their registration paperwork. And so we're simply asking for an update. It's not a full registration process. Parents have already been informed of that, and parents are already dropping off the necessary information. They can get it either here to us in multiple ways. They don't have to physically come here. They can email. They can I don't know if anybody faxes anymore today, but so it's changing buildings. So it's our 4th graders going into 5th grade, and it's our 8th graders going into 9th grade, so the 9th graders as well. So twice during the course of a 12-year career, you're going to re-register, and that'll be helpful for us. We're already finding it to be beneficial. We have 2 new principals starting in September, one at the Schweitzer School, Dr. Amy Orlando, and one at the Tawanka School, Robin Kleiber. Both are very, very excited to be joining the Neshaminy community, and so we'll be hearing more from them as the year unfolds, and they'll be greeting their students and staff soon. We're starting school very soon. A big thank you to our transportation department. Special thank you, because they helped in a significant way recently back in July. When in Pendel they were having the traveling Vietnam Wall come through. And it wasn't going to be an easy thing to move the people who were coming to visit during the course of the days that it was here on display. And so our transportation department joined some other local area transportation departments and provided on a volunteer basis shuttles for 3 of the main days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, during the course. And it was greatly appreciated on the part of the organizers of the event. And we greatly appreciate the fact that these individuals who are part of our school family made us look really good. They did good work for us, good work for the community, and obviously good work for a good cause. And so thank you so much for all that you did back in July. And that's all I have, Mr. Cogna. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to public comment. Please state your name, area you reside, your profession, and please no personal attacks. And my timer broke, so it looks like we only have one on the list. So, Mr. Rodas, you're going to have your internal clock going. We're getting tricky. So we don't have anybody then. Don't need my timer. You can have it at the second portion.
You might have an agenda item.
Oh, do you have an agenda item? No, no problem at all. No problem at all. All right, at this time, we're going to move on to routine matters. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes, check registers, procurement, card purchases, treasurer's report, bids, investments, and exonerations.
I just want to, I think we can do not, it says here we're going to do the agenda items first, and then it's not exclusive to agenda items, though, is it? I mean, I think there's a sequence that's identified here. If, it's up to you, Mr. Conlon, I'm sorry.
For
The public comment.
we'll let them speak twice if they need to.
Okay. Very good, go ahead.
All right, I have a motion on the table. Can I get a second, please? Second. Thank you, Ms. Hollenbach. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Be it there none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 7-0. Going to move on to the personnel. I'd like to make a motion to approve items 3.01 through 3.08, which would be retirements, resignations, leaves of absence, tenure awards, return from leave, appointments, co-curricular appointments, ancillary appointments, summer work, and workshop assignments. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Ms. Boyle, thank you for the second. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Be it there none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 7-0. Moving on to item 4, personnel support. Ms. Hollenbach, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve items 4.01 through 4.09, which are retirements, resignations, leave of absence, return from leave, appointments, co-curricular resignations, co-curricular appointments, ancillary appointments, summer work and workshop assignments, and job description, Avid College Readiness Mentor.
Thank you for the motion. Can I get a second, please? Second. Mr. Parentano with the second. Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? Be it there none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 7-0. Move on to business operations. Ms. Hollenbach, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve items 5.01, Sunday facilities usage, and 5.02, out-of-district placements.
Thank you for that motion. Can I get a second, please? Mr. Feather with a second. Any questions, comments, concerns? Be it there none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 7-0. At this time, does anybody have any other board business they'd like to bring up at this moment? All right, be it there none. We're going to move to our public comment. And Mr. Rodas, you signed up, so you can go first.
Good evening, Steve Rodas. I live in the Villages of Flowers Mill. I have a couple of things. First, I'd like to bring up something I brought up probably 5 or 6 years ago, which is finally getting more attention. Pardon? We did full day kindergarten. Right. That was 10 years ago by now. No, I had brought up the thought of later starting times for high schools. It's getting more attraction in the press nowadays. It seems that teenagers, they say don't go to bed before 11, and it's hard for them to get up and everything else. And why they don't go to bed early enough, I don't know. But it seems that this translates into there being more accidents involving teens for drowsiness. I don't even know if you could solve this problem. I know there are people out there talking about it and may talk about it in greater length in the future. So maybe you ought to put that somewhere in the back of your minds. Second, a couple of months ago, I think there was a school board member a person appointed to be member of the school board. And I think that was his last public appearance. So we've had some meetings since then, and this person never shows up. So I'm a little disappointed that, number one, some people who couldn't make the meeting and told you about that meeting of appointment were dismissed out of hand to be appointed to it, and the person that showed up to the meeting has never been back since. So it's a real anomaly to me as to what's going on now. I understand that this was a short-term appointment, and maybe since there's only 3 months left in his short reign, maybe he will show up in the future, but it might be good to send him a notice that request his appearance occasionally. Another thing is I noticed, and this should have been in the agenda, but it took me too long and I couldn't go through it beforehand, but I noticed in the agenda that there was a special ed teacher who resigned from the high school and was not replaced. So is that, you're cutting down in special ed in some form, or is this just to be taken care of at a future meeting? And you can answer me whenever. Sure.
The special ed position was not a position required to be replaced. So we were able to we didn't change our programming at all.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't a position that needed to be replaced to continue our programming.
Okay, great. That's good, I guess. Then I do have something that I want to bring up, which I usually bring up this time of the year. Anyhow, is about busing, my old friends in busing. And I did notice something that was fairly strange, to me anyhow, that Pennsbury spends less on busing than we do at Neshaminy, and they bus 12,000 students all over, and we claim to bus 11,400 students. They also, for some reason, only go to 56 schools, yet we go to over 100 schools. How did our people figure out there were more schools to get transported? And does anybody check the mileage involved? Because it can't be. That was yours or mine? That was mine. Oh, hey. What can I do? I better get off the stage then. So that was the last thing.
Good?
Anyhow.
Okay, yeah, we have your point, Stephen. We'll comment at the end.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else is free to approach? Once again, just to state your name, your area you reside, your profession, and please don't attack.
Please don't what?
No personal attacks. Just
Okay.
your name, your area you reside, your profession.
So my name is Erica Kopp. I live in Langhorne, and I have a daughter going into first grade, and a daughter who's about to go into kindergarten next year. So it was brought to my attention and other parents that our children during indoor recess that they're not supervised at all times. And it has made us a little bit uncomfortable and don't think it's acceptable for our children to be not supervised at all times. So, it's kind of unsettling to think of the things that could possibly happen and, with like just behavior being one thing, but like if there's a fire or if someone chokes or has an allergic reaction or, God forbid, a shooter, like I would want someone in the classroom with my daughter. And, I offered to help on my days off, and I think they did clearance checks, and I'm fine, and that they said that was a liability. So I really think that they should be, I and a lot of other mothers, parents, think that it's not acceptable and would like to see this brought to your attention, and hopefully something can be done. We just want to know that they're supervised at all times when they leave our care until they come back, until they're returned. And since we can talk about more than one thing, which I didn't know, regarding supervision, this is my first year dealing with kindergarten and buses and this kind of thing. So I don't know the money that goes into, I'm sure there's a cost factor, but to think that there's a bus driver that's driving 30 kids and is focused on driving and they have no idea what's going on in the bus, it's kind of, if there was any chance of more aides in the classrooms, on the school bus, I might be a little bit overprotective, but I would like to know that they're always, they're young or old. I guess I would always like to know that they're being supervised. So I think that's all I have to say for today. Thank you.
Ms. Cupp, let me just let you
you.
know that that recess scenario is one that probably existed here for I don't know how many years in the past, but it was brought to our attention. We had conversations with some parents. We
Right.
talked administratively about it. We made some adjustments at the tail end of last year so that we did better with that, and we've made changes to the schedule so that all students will be supervised during recess and during recess time now.
So, I know that that's been going on for a very long time, and I know that we've been very fortunate that things have not happened in the past. However, like taking a chance with our children is kind of like, and I think when the changes were made, at least to my understanding, I think Mr. Kern called me and told me that, that there was 3 aides between 10 classes that go up and, on 2 floors, and then himself and another counselor were going to do it as well, go in the rotation. But it still seems like, I don't know if something has been changed since then.
I'm sorry. We've done more over the summer so that we're ready for next year in a different fashion. Lunches are scheduled differently now. Rather than 2 classes being at recess at the same time, only 1 class will be at recess. So we're in a much better position. All students will be supervised.
All students will be supervised.
Yes.
My job here is done.
Okay. Good
Well,
work.
I
We should have
appreciate
hired.
that,
We
but-
should have hired you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm also a first timer, so I apologize. My name's Kimberly Gautier. I live in Maple Point. I too have a daughter that's 4 and another daughter that's 6, another daughter that'll be 4, going into kindergarten next year. And I don't typically like to state my profession, but I am in law enforcement and I deal with child exploitation. And it makes me sick to my stomach to think that my 6-year-old was left alone for more than 30 seconds. It's child endangerment. If I would have been at my house and left my 2 children by themselves and somebody called the cops, I would be arrested. I feel it's the same in a school. I pay money for you guys to protect my children, and that's what I expect, along with these other moms. There are unfortunately other moms couldn't make it today because they didn't have coverage for their children. But when I asked about Mr. Kern, I did ask Mr. Kern. I went through the proper channel, and when I asked what would happen if there was an allergy attack, or God forbid, and in this day and age, an active shooter, which is a real scenario, his response to me was, good question. There's not even a plan in place for those 10 classrooms to be supervised by 3 adults. There wasn't even a plan. Where are those 3 adults going? How are they choosing what classroom they're going to go to? I hope it's my child's class. So I would also like to know if that's going to happen, who's going to call me and tell me my child didn't make it because there was no adult in the room. So I'm glad to hear that every child is going to be supervised, and that's what I accept. I appreciate you listening to me, and I know Erica spoke, but I felt it was important enough for me to reiterate that, and I appreciate your time.
Apropos of this topic, I am familiar with a school in New Jersey, and what they do during lunchtime is the teachers, they offer it to teachers for like $25 or $30 an hour to cover their lunch period, when they have lunch, to cover the kids in the outside and or wherever they are during lunch. And this doesn't require any benefits, anything other than what the staff already has there. So that's one school district's way of handling it. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, we're going to move on to board comment. Oh, we do have one? Oh, please, come on up.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I hadn't planned on doing this, but I was just
The orange button?
I'm kind of a computer illiterate. My name is Betty Schieber. I live in Langhorne. And I've had the privilege of working in kindergarten at Albert Schweitzer for the past 3 years. And I was really floored with what you said about your children being left alone, because kindergarten at Schweitzer, they have 3 recess aides, 3 dedicated women. And if it's indoor recess, the children are taken into the gym, and they are not left alone for 1 second. If a child has to go to the bathroom, one of the recess aides walks to the bathroom and waits outside for them. And that's every day, 3 dedicated women. And as far as a child being left alone in a room, or about the different warnings that they have to do, I'm an instructional and one-on-one. I was. I hope to be again. Because I'm not a teacher, if my teacher had to leave the room, she would go seek another teacher or someone that was certified to come in and stay in the room with myself and the kids. And it happened a few times. I was a bit offended by it. I thought, gee, I've raised kids, raised grandkids. You know, I can't be alone for 5 minutes. But nope, that's the rules. They have to have somebody with them, and there's somebody with them at all times. Good people. I know at least the school that I've been into, and I have been in the other schools, you know, maybe a day at a time. But I couldn't, I've never seen anything like you just said that you have the unpleasant experience with. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right. Gonna move on to board comment. Does anybody on the board have any comments? A brief one.
I also want to extend my thanks to the NESPA Union for participating in the recent event in Pendel, as well as our NFT who participated in Night Out, I believe it was in Middletown. It's great to see community involvement. I think all of us, you know, when we talk about our children's safety, you know, have an ear to that. It's all of us were parents. I don't believe everybody at Sears had somebody in the school district. Over the years that I've been on the board, we've invested significant money in trying to upgrade the facilities to be more secure. Without turning them into a prison, I don't think there's any way you can guarantee anybody 100% security, even though that's our goal. But, you know, when we were kids going to school, you know, you didn't have the Columbines and the Sandy Hooks, and they're terrible, terrible events, and nobody would have ever thought they would ever occur to begin with, let alone now they have, but they're the reality of today that you have to prepare for. We've taken what I believe is reasonable measures and expended significant resources to get them to the point where we feel they're as secure as they could be within our resource limit. You're dealing with older buildings, you know, it's difficult to bring them up to, you know, the type of modern standards. But we made sure as we went through the Giza project that every elementary school and every middle school has a secure entrance. And the last 2 schools, Miller and Pearl Buck, thank you. Pearl Buck will have their security vestibules completed this year. And hopefully we'll have the kiosk system totally completed this year, so that it'll be seamless through all the schools. The high school was the first one to get a secured entrance. That was done there, and we've continued that model through all the other schools. As far as the situation with AIDS may go, I mean, that's for our administration, to answer. I can only speak, my children, college bound now, but, my experiences as a parent, they were always supervised. Some of the remarks that were made at the podium are the first I'm hearing of it, that children weren't supervised. But, I know from what Mr. Jones' reply is that they have recently instituted some new steps to try and fill in the gaps. And I think Mr. Jones elaborated that on enough. But I don't want anybody to think that we don't take the security of our students as well as our staff, important, and do the best we can. But to, as a realist, there's only so many scenarios we can try to prevent. These scenarios that have happened in other parts of the country, horrendous. We're doing what we can to make sure we keep everybody as safe as we can. But nobody can give anybody 100% guarantee. But we do the best that we can, and your comments did not fall on deaf ears. Thank you.
All right, and once again, I heard the comments, and as Steve said, you can't set a building up like a jail to protect against anything, but if something was to go down, you need an adult there with the children. God forbid something was to go down. And I briefly spoke to Mr. Jones, and I'll speak a little bit more with him in the future. I'm glad that it seems that the proper channels have taken place. This is the first I've heard about this at the podium, and it seems like there's a solution already there. So I'd like to know that the channels are working without the board's involvement, other than finding out about this evening. So our administration is doing everything they can to assure that our schools are safe and the children are supervised. And this board expects them to withhold them standards as well. So I'm glad that they're getting that situation fixed. With that being said, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Can I get a second, please? Second. Mr. Prantano with a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone, and good night.